What is going on, people? Welcome back into the Below the Prem podcast. It has been a good couple of days. The reason for that, we had midweek football, a 3-match game week. Lots of stuff to discuss today. League leaders going up, a new team slotting themselves into the automatic promotion, setting up a marquee matchup this weekend before the last international break, before an 11-game fixture. The death of many teams and the rise to greatness for many others. Who that will be, we don't know. But most importantly, today we are going to discuss the 8 games that happened on Tuesday, and this is being recorded while the remaining 4 fixtures are being played, and we will recap those at the end. Last but not least, we will get into our predictions for this Saturday's fixtures. Alex, it was a really, really good Tuesday. We obviously want to go right in and talk about Coventry. We'll save it. We have to go in chronological order. Big scenes yesterday. Let's start at the top. Birmingham City versus Millwall. And before that, if you saw last episode, thank you if you did, by the way, Alex wanted to come out here and at 9 a.m. in the morning, throw some digs at my NFL football team. Well, I've got news for you, buddy. We won against the Chiefs. The Tom Brady of this era, if you know anything about Tom Brady, that's probably the closest relation to who the Chiefs are. And the Bills are favored to win the Super Bowl. So I'll leave it at that. If you want to know more about NFL football, feel free to contact me. Alex, Birmingham City beat Millwall 4-0. We have very differing opinions on the outlook of Birmingham City the rest of the season. I have them finishing in the top 6. It's 2 wins in a row. They've scored 8 goals in the last 2. It seems that the tide may be turning. Chris Davis is starting to get the lineup correct. They're bringing in the big target man, Marvin Dukes, up top. Diogo has slotted into a £10 million bench role, and it seems like things are starting to work out. Is this a testament to Birmingham? Is this Millwall just being inconsistent? Thoughts on the game? Let's hear it.
Well, firstly, I actually wanted to start with this game anyway because I've been watching a couple of Millwall fans' reactions, and I've got a friend that's a Millwall fan, and he was not impressed with last night's performance. Another 4-0 hammering. It's their second of the season. And just when they think things are going well, they're in a good spot. I mean, they are still within the top 6, above fellow London rivals Charlton. But, I mean, 4-0 away from home, it doesn't matter who you're playing, is absolutely terrible. They made a lot of changes to the squad last night. Ivanovic still really struggling up front. I think the big issue is more the selection. And yes, they were missing key players, big one being Ryan Leonard in that squad. But they've spent a decent amount of money on players as well. Ivanovic looked like he was going to go in the summer and didn't, and then hasn't been able to replicate last season's form. I think a lot of blame has gone on the likes of Joe Bryan and Wes Harding on last night's performance, really. 2 players that have been quite surplus when it comes to Millwall, probably on their, how do I say it, last legs, really, when it comes to the fans' opinions. And I mean, after picking up a point on the road, a late equaliser for Oxford looked like a little bit of a dip. This is even bigger for the Lions, and a response is needed at Preston this following weekend if they want to stay in the playoffs going into the international break. As for Birmingham, who you spoke about, I mean, they're in fantastic form now. 8 goals in 2 games, back-to-back 4-0 written all over it. Wins for the Blues. Another goal for Stansfield, Damari Gray as well, getting on the score sheet. They seem to be picking things up, and I mean, they're a side that are always going to be playing pretty well at home against a Millwall side who are up in the playoffs, who probably, I mean, as I predicted, were favourites to win this game. I mean, it's a great result for the Blues, don't you think?
It is definitely a great result. Some interesting things going on there, starting to settle in, I guess you could say. As alluded to, they have a tough matchup against Middlesbrough, who, maybe are trending in the wrong direction. We'll talk about that more. Something I want to bring up is that the last 2 games, I don't know if this is a direct correlation, probably not, 1 for 1, but Chris Davies has decided to put Tomoki Iwata at right back, and I think that has helped a lot with their attack down the right-hand side. Instead of, the slow build-up play, maybe just booming a little bit forward, a little bit faster, and, that extra step is probably what they were missing in the beginning of the season, still adjusting from the pace of play in League One to the Championship. So, 25% of the season in, it may be time where it looks like Birmingham City are coming into their own. We shall see. They probably wish that this form came a little bit earlier, considering, I mean, to be fair, they are going for a 9-point week, but, we have a little bit of a break before that make or break 11 game run of fixtures. So, real interesting to see where things go there going forward. Two teams that really would be looking to pick up a win for just confidence and morale in their next games. We'll move on to a team that now is on the opposite of Birmingham City. So instead of going for a 9-point week, they have gone 0 for 2. They hopefully can get a win. It is Bristol City at home against Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a strange one because I think Birmingham City, their last loss was actually against Bristol City at Ashton Gate. And I mean, we're talking about a Bristol City side here who went, 3 wins on the bounce to back-to-back losses. They've got Watford next as well. It's not looking fantastic for them. I mean, Blackburn, it was coming though. It really was coming from just watching the highlights and the reaction from that game. Blackburn were the better team. I think Bristol City coming off a 5-1 loss is obviously going to be deflating, and they needed a response. They're at home against a Blackburn side who, yes, are in okay form. I think, I'm just looking at the form table. They're actually now in 9th in the form table, but they're in okay form, but they're still a side that Bristol City should be expecting to get something against. And I think Blackburn just, especially in the first half, were creating chances, being really dangerous. Just before the break, a really good ball into the box. It's a free space and it's into the back of the net. I mean, it's hard to now say the complete, well, not say, sorry, the complete opposite to what I've said about Bristol City on this show in recent weeks. I mean, this was a Bristol City side that was pretty much cemented in the playoffs this time last week. They're now back-to-back losses. They've slipped out the playoffs. They've got an informed Watford next, who we'll go on to speak about, I'm sure, in a minute. Because, I mean, Watford are a side that I'm pretty sure now will just continue to climb up the table. They've had, in my opinion, their past 3 fixtures have been the 3 toughest fixtures at the moment you could have in the Championship, and I think they've dealt with it quite well, and they'll capitalise on Bristol City now. So things do really need to change. I think Bristol City are part of that pack. We're talking like Charlton, Preston, Hull, that are, spoken about in the regards of a playoff push that people might not have expected. And I think at this stage of the season, it's either they're going to have to build up and make sure that they're cemented in the playoffs, or they'll kind of be left in the shuffle, really, because there's a lot of teams that are going to be pushing for the playoffs. There's teams, I'd say, as low as 10th and 11th that you can make a good argument to be in the playoffs, and there's even a couple of parachute payment teams in the bottom half that have maybe underperformed. In fact, I mean, 2 parachute payment teams that are in the Premier League last season, a Sheffield United side who we saw play Coventry as well. So it's going to be an intense season. Bristol City, a couple of games ago, I was convinced would probably be back in the playoffs like they were last season. And after back-to-back losses, it's not looking that way. But a great result for Blackburn Rovers, by the way, who I haven't given enough credit to. Now up to 18th in the table. 3 wins on the bounce, by the way. Absolutely brilliant for them. Because, I mean, they'd be in the relegation zone without them 9 points that they've picked up over the past 3 games. And again, it's another team who have lost against Coventry this season. I know they had a game against Sheffield United, but have lost against Coventry this season. I mean, I didn't think Blackburn were too bad. And then not long after, started to pick up form, it seems.
I thought Blackburn were great against Coventry, especially in that first half. I mean, it just, at the end of the day, it comes down to just squad size and just pure class. Coventry able to pull that game out, but huge result for them here. I think it's all about, for these teams that were probably odds-on favorites to go down at the start of the year, just stacking up points as quick and as plentiful as possible while these other teams are struggling. Like Southampton are below them in the table, Norwich are below them in the table. Southampton currently winning, Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday currently drawing at the time of recording. We'll touch on those at the end. But on the flip side, concerning for Bristol City, Blackburn did actually have a center back and their goalkeeper go out in this game, so that is definitely something to monitor late in the game. Injury substitution. Could it have been a little bit of gamesmanship? Could it have been a true injury? Who knows? We'll see if they're able to suit up. But just goes to show the absolute craziness of the championship. I mean, even going back to last season, Bristol City were a shock to be in the playoffs. They get knocked out of the playoffs. Coming into the season, everyone says, it's time for them to regress to the mean and, stabilize around the middle of the table. Then they have this hot start to the year. They destroy Sheffield United. And now, after being in the playoffs for a couple weeks, they shift back to, where they are in the table right now. They're sitting in seventh, so still in striking distance, but quick turnaround. Quick turnaround is usually a good thing, but maybe not against Watford. We'll see what we predict them once we get to that portion. So, moving on there, all good stuff. Now, I'm very excited to talk about this game because I banged it head on. Prediction correct, game script correct. Charlton Athletic versus West Brom. I said 1-0.
I mean,
Give me the Nathan Jones late game masterclass knee slide. And when they scored that goal, he was up on the advertisement board, fist pumping. So I'm taking a little victory here. That was good stuff. Charlton, just keep getting it done. Probably a good time to play against West Brom. They've been struggling to create. I mean, they've been struggling to create for a decent amount of the season, but recently, especially, they've had some tough fixtures. They're looking at 3 losses in their last 4. What do you make of West Brom? What do you make of Charlton? Are they the real deal? Are West Brom underperforming? They're sitting in 15th now.
yeah, West Brom are definitely underperforming from where the fans would expect them to be. I think it's just been a couple of years of real decline at the Hawthorns. Now, without a win in the past 4 games, struggling to win against the Sheffield Wednesday side, who, I mean, I hate to be disrespectful to Sheffield Wednesday. I know they're going through quite a lot, but they seem to be the one team that anyone should fancy themselves against. But in saying that, they seem a lot tighter at the back than they do kind of when it comes to creating chances. Just 2 goals conceded in the past 3 games. And that really late on goal against Charlton, like you predicted, 95th minute, you were pretty much dead on. And it seems like a quite even game as well. I mean, both teams really struggling to have any big chances, but Albion having the most shots overall, pretty even in possession. I mean, it's a game where it is going to be tough. I think I'm not going to say West Brom are in a false position because I think I predicted West Brom to be there and about mid-table. They have been one of the only teams that have actually fulfilled my kind of expectation going into this season. I'd make an argument for about 15, 16 teams really shocking me on where they are in the table, really. West Brom are one that really aren't. As for Charlton, we're going to speak about it every single week, it feels. I mean, 3 wins in 5, but the games they haven't won are draws. And Nathan Jones, I mean, there was people saying, oh, he could be sacked. And we've seen him previously at this level not be up to his best at the likes of Southampton, Stoke. But yeah, I mean, what's this, over a month now without a loss? I mean, at the Valley, they've not lost since August the 23rd against Leicester. So they're really, really good at home. Wrexham this weekend isn't going to be an easy game. We saw when Wrexham played against Coventry that they are a decent side. I predicted them at the start of the season to finish 10th. And they're, again, another one that will probably be in and around there. But I mean, yeah, I'm really happy with how Charlton have started, to be honest. It's good to see a team coming up and really giving it a go. And it's the one team out of the 3 that we've said we probably didn't expect either. So really good with Charlton. For West Brom, I think they really need a win this weekend to kind of just kind of see out this kind of run just before the international break, really, because they just haven't been up to the standard. Isaac Price started the season really, really well, and it seems like he was carrying the Albion team. He hasn't had much support from the team around him. So yeah, big game for Albion this weekend against Oxford, hoping to find their first win in 5.
Yeah, that'll be a very interesting one. You definitely want that win for, Ryan Mason, a young manager. He showed that, he's got promise, but it's now getting to, I mean, I think most managers face this when teams go through rough patches. Those post-match interview questions get a little awkward and sometimes can frustrate you. So he needs it definitely for his sanity, with 2 weeks off going into the biggest stretch of the season. Now, I do want to also mention too, as I'm, victory lapping, the goal should have never went in. Sonny Carey from about 40 yards out with, seconds remaining, right at the keeper, just spills it. I need to see a slow-mo replay of it. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the XG on that was probably less than 0.05, but a goal is a goal. I mean, they also missed a penalty that game, but just real good to see with Charlton. It's fun to watch. I want to shout out Lloyd Jones. From an earlier episode, I like Lloyd Jones because he was on the American Dating Show, so always have a little soft spot for him. He's been an absolute menace this year. He was the man of the match. He had an 8.7 match rating. I believe he's gotten a goal this season as well. 17 clearances in this game. So huge member for the team at the back. Thomas Kaminsky, after the free fall with Luton, has rebounded really well. I mean, they've got a decent amount of clean sheets this year. I want to say they have 6 clean sheets, which is tied with Coventry and Stoke for the league lead. So that just, I mean, any team having 6 clean sheets is unreal, but especially a newly promoted team, especially just from what we know with the discrepancy in wages. I mean, maybe it's not as severe in the non-top tiers, but I mean, we've seen in the Premier League and we've seen in every other league that, these teams aren't worth nearly as much as some of the top clubs, and they're going out and they're fighting every week. So it's fun to watch. And yeah, well, I'm looking forward to just seeing how things continue to go. So cool.
I,
Good
I
stuff
just
there.
want to I just want to make a comment on XG quickly, because it's a stat that I think I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority saying it can be a bit of a pointless stat. I look at the XG table and Coventry are sat top of the XG table, like we're sat top of the table. But you look at the bottom three. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday are bottom. In 23rd, you've got Hull, who are doing quite well. They're 8th in the table. 22nd, you've got Derby, who are 11th in the table. Above them, you've got Wrexham, another side that are doing okay. They're 14th in the table. And if you go to the top of the XG table, you've got Ipswich in second, who are a side that we'll get onto in a minute. And I've said they're going far all season. They're currently sat in 10th. You've got Blackburn and Southampton in 4th and 5th. A Southampton side that are, all the way down in 19th. Blackburn in 18th, right? The point I'm trying to make here is this XG table for me, it just says a lot of like who's nearly there and who's kind of doing. It doesn't really matter because like you say, I mean, that goal from Charlton, it really shouldn't have gone in. It might have been 0.03 XG. But that's the difference between 1 point and 3 points. And I mean, for the sake of Charlton Athletic here, that's the difference in them being in the playoffs and not right now. Jonah, what's your thoughts on XG? I know this is a bit of a kind of a random diversion here, but I don't know. I mean, looking at the XG table, it's giving me the kind of impression that Southampton are doing really, really well, yet they're 14 places below where they are on the XG table.
Go back and forth on it. If you or anyone listening watch my videos on my main channel, I tend to lie on statistics heavily. And I've recently started to take a step back and try to look at things from a bigger picture because at the end of the day, you can't just look at analytics and it doesn't paint a picture completely. I like to look at certain things leading up to games for my pre-match analysis and like long passes, things like that. But XG can be a little bit misleading because it also just comes down to the how composed a player is, things like that. I mean, we can look at Ipswich and Southampton being in the top 3 in XG, but look where they are in the table. Just comes down to composure and whatnot. But it's a good question. I think I like it, but I totally understand why people would say that they don't. So if you guys have an opinion on it, I don't feel too strongly either way. Please let us know down in the comments. But sometimes it just helps, especially if you can't watch a team every single week. Every game kicks off at the same time. It's good to look at the stats, and you might see, I mean, the game that Will Still was sacked. This might be a dumb example, but they had been creating 1 to 3 xG every single game, hence why they are number 3 in the league. They were number 2 for a while. Ipswich have just been creating like crazy recently. And then the first game where Southampton create 0.5 xG, that's when he was sacked. but you can't be too in or too out on it because if you go all in analytically, it's going to come back to bite you. I mean, Sheffield United went with their AI recruitment model, and look what happened there. We'll talk about that. So let us know down in the comments what you think. I'm interested in getting into a little debate on that because I truly do see both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it, XG? I think for a lot of kind of football purists that aren't really into statistics, they're not going to be too much of a fan of it. And a game that we're going to move on to now, I mean, we speak about XG, a team that I mentioned not having the best XG. They're sat 11 places below where they are in the XG, but picked up another 3 points yesterday, Derby County, at home to Hull City. Again, we both predicted wrong. I said Hull would win 3-1. You said it'd be a 1-1 draw. But a really, really good result for Derby County, really climbing up the table. 4 wins on the bounce and a game against Blackburn Rovers next away from home. To go 5 wins in a row, and this is John Eustace's side, who, I mean, 4 games ago only had 8 points. We're in and around the relegation zone. There was chat of Eustace even losing his job, and now he's coming up against his former club this weekend. What a result for Derby County. Could they be a dark horse for the playoffs, Jonah? What do you think?
They absolutely can. I mean, they brought in a baker's dozen amount of players this off season. It just took time for them to click. I love my Americans in the championship. Patrick Adjumang, he was signed. He was their big investment of the summer. He had a sports hernia, little hangover from the USA participating in the Gold Cup. But, since he has gotten up to, game form, Carlton Morris has come on as of recent. Carlton Morris has 9 goals, Alex. It's pretty insane. I know he's going to be disappointed that Brandon Thomas Asante had a tap in at the end of the game due to the unselfishness of Haji Wright to hit that double digit goal. But those two are going to be going at it all year. But it's really cool to see, and it just encompasses the madness of the championship because we talk about it. We beat it like over the head over and over again. John Eustace, success in the championship, good team, good players on paper, but they just weren't performing. And now we see it, and it's a complete afterthought. I mean, we were talking about Derby in the relegation zone, maybe not one episode ago, but 2 episodes ago when we started this podcast. Derby were in the relegation zone, so cool to see them booming up the table. They're sitting in 11th now for that 5th win. John Eustace, maybe a little revenge game, or vice versa. Be interesting to see there. What else do I have to say about Derby? Let me think.
Well, I just want to make a quick point here about Derby and the main kind of front three, Ben Berridson Diaz, Patrick Adjumang and Carlton Morris. I think that on paper is a really, really good front three
Oh
that
yeah.
maybe Derby didn't have last season to create the chances. I think they're a little bit weak at the back, which might let them down. The likes of, Dion Sanderson, Matt Clark, even Zelta Stom in goal, really. For me, they've never really filled me much confidence in the times I've watched Derby. Dion Sanderson's been here, there, and everywhere, and I've never really thought he's that great of a defender. But I mean, I think it's more the options that they have off the bench for the rest of the squad. I mean, the likes of Rian Brewster, Ibu Adams, and Andy Vyman as well. I mean, he's an experienced head at this level, 34. I say an experienced head. He's experienced in the fact that he can score goals at this level. He's probably not at his best anymore, but for 20 minutes, half an hour in a game, especially like last night coming on for the last 15 minutes, must have had some sort of impact into Derby finding that winner. So I'm going to be perfectly honest, and I know it's hard to say. I think Derby could be one of them teams that are just in and around the playoffs. It's hard to call because there's so many good teams in the league, but I just think if they improve their defence in January, there's no reason why they wouldn't be, in and around that top 6.
Mhm. Definitely. They were actually tipped to finish quite low by the bookies, which was a little surprising to a lot of people, but we shall see. It's so early. Now, on the other side of this, all lose their first game in, over a month, their first loss in September. Speaking to a Hull fan, they're very, very frustrated with the loss, as, any fan would be. The goal that lost them the game was a miscommunication, you could say, between defender and Ivan Pander, who, Hull pride themselves on having, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. And the ball was kind of stuck in no man's land, and the defender was going back to get it, but it seems like Pander called him off. And then Pander went to clear the ball, bounced off of the Derby player directly to a Derby midfielder who then just tapped it in from about maybe 40, 50 yards away. So, really frustrating way to lose, especially after being on such a hot streak. But, I mean, to be totally fair, 3 wins in the last 5 for Hull. They're sitting in 8th place. Defense, little shaky for them if they can, get that figured out. I mean, they have the attack. They have the attacking wingback play. They have Joe Gelhart, who finally broke his scoring streak, and then they have reinforcements coming back with Ollie McBurney. So it's not all bad. Hull are primed to finish strong. They're going to play against Portsmouth before the next international break. So we'll keep an eye there, and we will certainly discuss how that goes. Moving forward, really good matchup here. One that we could not have been farther off on our predictions. Ipswich versus Watford. I said 4-3 to Ipswich. You said 0-0 just to go either side.
I think I was slightly closer than you, and I still called a draw. I mean, it wasn't exactly a 4-3, but yeah, I think both sides are really good at the moment. Watford obviously take the lead. I mean, Sousa isn't missing from there really. It's a great ball into the box. In my opinion, one of the best midfielders in the league. And then shortly, followed up by a Jaden Philogene goal, which was a fantastic finish off the left into the bottom corner. Not long after, probably 4 or 5 minutes after. And like I've said, Ipswich are going far this season. I do think they are a team that are in contention for being in the top 2. I think they just struggled a little bit to get going, obviously adjusting to the championship, changes to the squad, things like that. As for Watford, I think they're even more in with a shout for playoffs than Derby. Not in the best of form on paper, but like I've said, they've had the 3 toughest games they could have possibly wanted in the championship. I mean, Coventry away from home, Ipswich away from home, 2 sides that if I'm a Watford fan looking at this, I'm thinking I'm glad we've got them out of the way because they can get a really good run going, especially Friday night at home to Bristol City. That'll be an interesting game. But Middlesbrough at home being sandwiched in between and smashing them 3-0 just shows the quality that Watford have throughout the squad. And I do feel like it could be a little bit of a backward step for Middlesbrough. We'll get onto them in a minute. Just to speak about Watford's upcoming games, they've got a couple of informed teams, but here we're going from the next month, so the 7th of November to the 6th of December. They've got a home game Bristol City next, then an away trip to Derby after the international break. Again, I mean, that will really show who's a better team in within them two. Preston at home. Preston are kind of blowing hot and cold at the moment. Birmingham away, not an easy place to go, and especially on a Monday night, it's not going to be an easy place to go. And then they've got Norwich at home, who I'm assuming I'm putting all my eggs in one basket here. I'm assuming they'll have sat their manager by then, or I'd have hoped so anyway. I don't see a turnaround at Carrow Road until that happens. But looking at their upcoming games, and the reason I mention them 5 games is there's a lot of opportunity for Watford to really make a statement here. If they're beating teams like Derby, Preston, Birmingham, who have picked up results, that'll be a real statement to the league. So, I think the next month, and like you said, his next 11 games is so important. It's a big time for Watford, who, are not in the best of form, but we look at their past 3 games and think, actually, they're doing really, really well. It's a Watford side sat bang on mid-table 12th as well. So not too far away from that playoffs. Yeah, really, really impressed with Watford. And to speak about Ipswich, I've spoke about them a lot. I mean, I do think they are going far this season. And this is only really the start, probably a frustrating one for them. But I think it's a good result. It's a good result for anyone getting anything against Watford at the moment. Ipswich sat in 10th. And they're another one who, once they get on a good run, I don't think they're going to stop, if I'm perfectly honest. Just the depth that they have in the squad, the players that they can bring on off the bench, I think it's superior to any other team in this league. And that's including Coventry as well. So yeah, I think a good result for both teams. I wouldn't be too downhearted on that one. Anything else to say, Jonah, before we move on to Leicester versus Middlesbrough?
Yeah, I'll drop a couple things in there. Just thoughts about these two teams and their outlooks. I think Ipswich will be a little bit frustrated to not get 3 points out of this. Being at home, Watford are yet to win a game on the road this season. But you alluded to it. As the season goes on, Ipswich are just going to grow and grow and get stronger. As teams start to get beaten down, injuries start to loom. They have such a deep squad, and think that's going to be the difference that's going to propel them to, they're sitting in 10th place right now. And when it's all said and done, I wholeheartedly believe they will be near the top. On the flip side, Watford, they passed the eye test, really. You watch them play, you think they're higher in the table. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do going forward. Imran Louza has just been on an absolute tear. I mean, nice and easy finish for him, stayed composed. It'll be an interesting watch this weekend. They'll be looking to get back on the right side of things before, but 3 game run, you absolutely take 4 points against the quality of teams that they played.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, moving on to Leicester City, who are now winless in 5 games, and may it continue. A 1-1 draw at home to Middlesbrough. And I mean, Leicester take the lead in this game as well, and a late 96th minute goal from Luke Ayling. Absolutely brilliant, absolute cinema. Despite Leicester kind of doing us half a job, I think this might start to be the downfall of Middlesbrough. I don't want to speak about Leicester too much because they seem to just be establishing themselves as a mid-table championship outfit. Middlesbrough have been the only team up until this point, or up until I'd say the past week, that I've been worried about their results as a Coventry fan. Now winless in 3, 2-1-1 draws and a 3-0 loss to Watford, like we just mentioned. I think this might be the start of a downfall for Borough. What do you think?
I mean, I can definitely see it. They have not been scoring goals, and obviously, I mean, you can squeeze out games 1-0, 0-0 draws, but teams at the top can score goals. There's no question. I mean, look at Coventry, look at Stoke. That's going to be the biggest question: is can they score enough to keep up with the other teams that are in or around that playoff or automatic area? We know the defense is solid. We know the midfield is, one of the best in the league. That'll be something to look forward to. They had a lot of shots in this game. They weren't able to convert, so it's definitely a positive sign to go to the King Power, which, maybe it's not as much of a fortress this year as it was in the past, but essentially being not in pole position, but at least have a decent showing where you're able to, get shots off. Unfortunately, it didn't fall till the end. Nice little looped header into the box, good finish to equalize. Maybe a little bit lucky to get it at the end, but a goal is a goal. Not looking at XG, they got a point. I mean, I think if you are a fan of a team in or around the top, you are okay with this result. Especially, I mean, you're over the moon as a Middlesbrough fan, considering you go down to 10 men, you're able to equalize, but split the points. That's fine. The EFL are still deciding their sanctions on Leicester City. Who knows if it happens this year? Who knows if it happens next year? But it's just the creation of chances is what they really have been lacking this year. They were able to get their goal today via a handball, but I don't really think you can go into any Leicester City game and kind of get a grip on who is going to be the goal scorer other than moments of brilliance, created from the wings by Mavididi, Fatawu, Ramsey through the middle. So struggling for Leicester City, definitely. Middlesbrough, they've got a chance to prove themselves. We'll see. They've got, one more game, and then they can reassess things going into the international break.
Well, to speak about their like kind of upcoming games, so I like to always see, when a team aren't doing great, who they've got next. Birmingham at home, and I mean Birmingham are a decent side, but following on from this, they've then got a trip to Oxford after the international break. That's a fantastic opportunity to get something in Oxford's side that are,
Mm.
within around that relegation zone. But then back-to-back home games against Coventry and Derby, two sides that are doing really, really well. Coventry have only lost once all season, sat top of the league, and Derby are in fantastic form. That's then followed on by a game against Hull, Charlton. So, I mean, going into December, there's no easy game in the Championship, is there really?
No.
I mean, even Sheffield Wednesday, if you don't turn up and you're not good enough, you're going to drop points. I think West Brom saw that in recent recent games. Middlesbrough even saw this against Sheffield Wednesday, only finding the back of the net once in that game. So yeah, for me, it's an interesting one. It's definitely an interesting one. Middlesbrough. We'll see where they end up over the next couple of weeks. Moving on to a game I actually predicted right. I just want to put this out here as well. Jonah, you've got that prediction right. I know we haven't gone over the predictions too much. I thought it'd be a 2-0 Middlesbrough. You said 1-1. So that's two games that have been decided in not the 95th minute that you've got correct. I got this one right, though. Oxford 0, Stoke 3. I always seem to get the ones right that are like hammerings and stuff like that. But Stoke are in fantastic form, absolutely brilliant form. It's going to be a massive game this weekend, first versus second, Coventry City versus Stoke. An interesting game, Joan. I don't know if you know this. I actually lived in Stoke. I went to university up there for 3 years. So, I mean, it's kind of my two places I've ever lived in my entire life. When I was in Stoke, Stoke were pretty poor, mid-table. If they were playing and Coventry weren't, very rarely would I be going to watch Stoke at the Bet365 as a neutral because, they just weren't playing entertaining football. I think while I was there, they had 4 or 5 different managers. And the second I leave, they've got Mark Robbins, who's going to be consistent, playing some really good football, and they're second in the table. A fantastic win for Stoke. 4 wins out of 5. The only game they've lost was a trip to Millwall, who are like either really good or really, really bad, because I genuinely don't know what to think about Millwall. But yeah, a great win for Stoke. Nothing different, really. I don't think it's anything unexpected for Oxford, who are now just 4 points above the drop zone, but a great win for the Potters.
It was a great win, and I think this was really other than the fact that it lifted them into the automatics, I think this was the game that really, this and the Bristol City result kind of put them on the map to the rest of the league. We had all been saying, oh, me specifically, I said I don't necessarily know if they can keep it up just because their attack was kind of all coming from Sorba Thomas, but that has totally shifted. And this is a perfect time that this and the Coventry game are the last two that we're going to cover because they obviously face off in, an absolutely critical matchup this Saturday. Now, I like to do match preview analysis on my channel, so I've been doing a lot of deep diving into Stoke and just where the goals are coming from. And, beginning of the season, it was Sorba Thomas, resurgent, he's creating all the chances, and that is true. Still, that is true. I'm not going to go look for the stat, but he's created the most key passes this season. I don't have the exact number. So the most key passes in the entire championship, Sorba Thomas. Now, the last couple of games, that's dried up a little bit. Now they're attacking down the right side. So they've got Manhoff coming off down the right side. They've also got a new right back that has been in and out of the team all year. His name is Chamadou. I probably absolutely butchered that. But those two down the right.
You did a good job there. I think it's like Shamadou. That's how they'd say it. You did a good job. You did a good job, John. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Everyone likes to say stuff about my pronunciation, but it's, what it is? When I don't have an accent, same to everyone else, sounds different. Not important.
Yeah.
They have been creating a lot of goals down the right-hand side, and you know what? They have looked very, very scary. 8 goals in 2 games, same number as Birmingham, 5 against Bristol City, 3 against Oxford. They can create chances down either side. They're pacey, they're direct, and we're not even talking on their defense. Their defense is really good. They're the only team to concede single-digit goals this season. Going to be an absolute battle. What's the phrase? A immovable object versus an unstoppable force. Is it fair enough to say that that's what the matchup against Coventry is going to be? I mean, Coventry with 39 goals, Stoke conceding 9 goals. Really excited for that. But
well, it's the best attack in the league against the best defence in the league. And I mean, you mentioned the goals as well. A lot of the players at Stoke are such familiar names, players that have been there for quite a while. Lewis Baker being one of them. Steven Nzonzi's come back to the Potters after, leaving near enough 10 years ago. You've got Million Manhoof, who was there last season. And players like Ben Wilmot, Johansson, Bocat that have been there for a while as well. And this is just looking at yesterday's starting 11. I mean, it seems like these long-term investments that Stoke made a couple of seasons ago are really starting to pay off. Players that they brought in on a permanent basis. It didn't really work out for them at the start, but Mark Robbins has backed his team, backed his players, and eventually they're getting results. I mean, 3 losses, for a team that are second in the league after 14 games, it could be their detriment. And realistically, they could, as easy as it is to be in a great run of form, go into a quite poor run of form. But they seem to be turning over pretty much everyone now. Some great results on the road to Portsmouth, at home to Wrexham. And smashing Bristol City just seems to be the biggest kick up the backside they could have asked for. A massive, massive game at the Bet365. Genuinely, cannot wait. Never been this excited to go to Stoke in my entire life. That's all I'm going to say about that game. A big one, but we move on to the Sky Blues, who picked up 3 points once again at home. Back to winning ways, Jonah. What was your thoughts on that before I go on and probably give you a 5-minute ramble of my thoughts of the game?
Yeah, so now we're finally getting to the Coventry City fans' favorite part of the video. We're going to talk about this game. And all I have to say leaving that game is just how can you not love football? I mean, the scenes, the pregame performance, the first half. Saw a lot of content creators say that they thought Coventry were poor in the first half. I disagree with that. I don't think that they were necessarily poor. I think they may have been unlucky to not get a goal and then also a bit unlucky on the set piece. Obviously, the set pieces have been, well, not recently, but they have been an issue earlier in the season. Kind of mopped that up, but it just showed back. But then it was covered after. Second half, Frank Lampard just absolutely shocked the system. I don't think that Chris Wilder was expecting Frank to go all out attack from the 45th minute, and I don't think the Sheffield United players expected that either. I mean, to go from a 4-3-3, what you've been running all year, to a 4-2-4, Haji Wright and Brandon Thomas Asante up the middle. I mean, they just all they could do was sit back and defend. That was clearly the game plan, but I don't think that if Frank made those substitutions, well, that one substitution later in the game, I don't think we would have seen the full 3 points from Coventry, as it would have given United the time to settle in and get their positioning down, but just a gutsy performance. I mean, the motors on these players, whoever is in charge of the cardio of this team, needs a raise. Get them set up for life. I mean, Milan Van Ewijk, Jay De Silva, Matt Grimes, just everywhere up and down the pitch, box to box for 45 straight minutes. So I was concerned that, maybe they would have gassed out at the end, which they did. They were all absolutely gassed by the end. But, the calming presence of the back line, Cara Rushworth coming out and knowing when he needs to, intercept a cross ball was enough to get them through. Shout out to Jamie Allen and Haji Wright at the end. If you actually watch that replay back, Haji Wright just got himself back on side. So was really happy to see that. Then, composed little sweat over to BTA at the end, but real happy with the result. Sheffield United played a lot better than a team in the relegation zone. Booze for Callum O'Hare. That's been a hot topic on my YouTube channel recently. Some people giving it to me for saying that I'm not a fan of him. Some people backing it. But at the end of the day, it's football. People are going to go where they get paid. It does not matter. It led to Jack Redoni. What do you think about this game? Let's hear it. I mean, I just gave my spiel. I loved it.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm one of the fellow content creators who thought we weren't great in the first half. I think we created many chances and put a bit of pressure on, a back line that seemed a bit shaky. It just seemed like everything was falling into the hands of Michael Cooper. We seemed a bit sluggish. Thought maybe there was one too many midfielders, and I think the best example I can give is the fact that when Mason Clark comes on, he absolutely changes the game. Just the amount of crosses he was putting into the box and just the opportunities he was creating for his fellow teammates was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And for me, I'm not going to say a great performance, but I mean, how I felt at halftime and how I felt at full time were contrasting. In fact, how I felt in the 91st minute when Sheffield United were putting on a little bit of pressure, because it just takes one mistake, and it just takes one mistake for it to go from 2-1 to 2-2. Luckily, we get that late goal. Jamie Allen, just like Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills, dictating the play, wins the ball back. Just great ball down to Haji Wright. And I mean, I can't believe he squared it. I genuinely can't believe he squared it, because it's had you right. You're just thinking he's going to shoot, and he squares it to his teammate, back of the net, and just a fantastic performance. I really, really think we are going far this season because it's a great result, absolutely great result. And just to kind of touch as well on that back four, I mean, De Silva and Milan, just they are the best fullbacks that we've had, the best fullback pairing in a very, very long time. Kitchen and Thomas, you take them players out the team, we're a completely different team. Bobby Thomas, for me, the best centre back in the league, not just statistically on the goals and assists, because I mean, he gets a goal and assist in that game, but just week in, week out, solid at the back, really, really solid. And any other season, you're looking at this thinking, oh no, if we don't get promoted, we're going to lose half these players. And I'll give you the fear, Joe, and if we don't get promoted this season, we are going to lose most of these players to Premier League sides because they are that good.
Yeah.
And that's just a detriment to Frank Lampard, Joe Edwards, and the rest of the coaching squad, really, what they've done. Just fantastic. Really, really happy with that win last night.
It was phenomenal. Just the feeling leaving that game was really just the best part of it all. Just so much joy in that second half, just to come out firing, and it never got to that Norwich City, Hull City type of feeling where it was just recycle, whack the ball in the box, hope for the best. It was just shot creation, taking players on one. EMC did change the game. He provided the width. Honestly, I didn't even think that he was at his best. I mean, he was beating defenders. He wasn't even putting in unbelievable services, but it was just that was only one of, 3 or 4 different facets of attack. So just a joy to watch. I want to talk about Bobby Thomas real quick. Took me about 90 seconds to realize how much we missed him against Wrexham. It's like distance makes the heart grow fonder. He was out for one game, we've been back and forth on him, giving him stick this season, but his physicality in this game completely changed. I mean, he was everywhere. He was, you didn't know, the only way I knew where he was based on his orange highlighter boots. I said in my post-match analysis, if you saw the highlighter boots coming towards you, you knew you were losing the ball. He put in a couple really nice challenges. He clattered Callum O'Hare, whatever you make of that. It's football. It was a very physical game. I loved it. Sakamoto as well is just, he's been on a 3-game tear. It's not even, that doesn't even do justice. It's just he's getting the goals and assists now. It's not even just that. It's just beating defenders. His little I don't even know what you'd call it. I'm talking FIFA terms. His little shot cancel where it looks like he's about to cross it in, and then he just pulls the string on and he sends defenders flying. This trademark move, he's pulling it off every game. He's playing defense. He's getting knocked over and he's getting right back up. He's drawing fouls. Just things right now for him are clicking, and I couldn't be happier because, it wasn't the best starts of the year. He hurt his groin. He was out for a couple games. Then you see the surge of BTA, and you question, he going to get dropped, but now he's just solidifying himself as a staple in the team.
Yeah, I mean, Sakamoto is a player that has, had his fair share of injuries that have maybe hindered his Coventry City career. He had a good run a couple of years ago, around November, December. I remember his goal at Middlesbrough away. I remember Jake Bidwell sliding in, winning the ball just before he was about to go out for a goal kick. And at the back post was Sakamoto. He's just got the heart and the desire to put the ball in the back of the net. And I mean, when he does it, he's not known for his goal scoring, but when he does it, it's usually a well-won goal. And just to talk about his goal, at Wrexham quickly as well. I mean, it's quite forgettable because, the goal didn't really mean anything. But I think that's also added to his morale. He's come away from a game where the team haven't done great, but people are saying Sakamoto is the best player on the pitch. We go into, another big game. Let's just face it here. Sheffield United are down in the relegation zone, but we need 3 points, and Sakamoto turns up once again. But it weren't just the game that I would say was the highlight last night, Jonah. A lot of big things that have never ever happened for the Sky Blues before that I said that we'd speak about, and that was the enemy performing, the light show, the fireworks, and all that glitz and glamour. Now, this is one thing, because I always think that, in the UK and in America, they're quite similar cultures. I'm not off in South Korea or China where they're not even speaking the same language. They're eating completely different foods. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd say America and the UK culturally have a lot of similarities, but I'd say light shows and cheerleaders and stuff like that is one thing that in the UK we probably don't have as much of, or haven't up until about 10 years ago. But what is your thoughts, firstly, on like light shows and stuff, and how much of the enemy? I'm sure you've seen it on social media. I think every man and his dog has posted their video of the enemy. But what was your thoughts on the light show as someone that wasn't there? And then I'll give my whole thoughts as well.
Well, the American broadcast, what they do before every game is they just have a sky cam of the stadium with a graphic over it. So I heard the performance, but I couldn't see it. But then obviously I open up Twitter and I see 9,000 videos. One of my good friends, Reese, his season ticket is right behind them. And, he posted a 3-minute video of it. And it honestly gave me chills. I had someone actually DM me and be like, it literally like brought tears to my eyes. And it's an interesting topic because to me, I just don't understand why people get so wound up about things like that. I mean, this is totally different than light shows and things like that, but in America, it's a standard of, before games, fireworks, fighter jets fly overhead, things like that. And I definitely see that coming to football as, the sport starts to become, I'm not going to say Americanized, but I just think it's a natural progression of sports is why wouldn't you want to create the best possible atmosphere? You guys are able to now create unreal atmospheres just organically in a way, just with, your passion, smaller stadiums, even away days specifically, the diehard fans are the only ones that can go. So naturally, you guys are going to go and you're going to get up for the games. But I think that having those really cool experiences before the games, and you saw a prime example right there. I'm not saying that there should be a band performance before every game, but those little things that happen before games really just get a crowd going. And the crowd was on absolute fire yesterday, even when Coventry were down. It's actually been something I've been seeing on the internet is that people complain about the atmosphere, which make of that what you want. It's sometimes hard to get up for a game when your team is winning every single game. I think it just gets to a point. You can't go 90 minutes of every single game screaming. You're going to lose your voice. But it's cool to help create an atmosphere. So, like, I was tailgating for the Buffalo Bills game last weekend, and I didn't go to the game because this is the last season at this stadium, so the ticket prices are probably like 7 or 8 times what West Brom had to pay to go to Coventry. But you'll just be in the parking lot, and all of a sudden it'll sound like there's a bomb dropping, and it's 100 fireworks going up. There were no fighter jets last weekend, but things like that. And I just think it's cool to create an atmosphere on top of what you already have. So I know a lot of people have different, and this is the perfect time for us to discuss it. So, what do you think?
Well, the first thing you mention is the kind of decline in the atmosphere. And I think there's one big reason for that. But kind of away from that, it's more the fact that there's a bit of entitlement and kind of the atmosphere. Because you mentioned that you can't sing and scream for 90 minutes. Believe me, Jonah, you can. And I'd say the atmosphere in that home ground, from it being a group of 50 of us in League One, League Two, getting behind the team, making our own banners and just kind of having, bringing flags to the games and stuff like that, to kind of what we have now, it's kind of completely different. I think the European atmospheres, no matter if you go to a game in Germany, Spain, Poland, literally anywhere, you'll see the similarities and you'll see the differences. And a lot are kind of closer to what you guys have in America. So, I mean, if I went over to Germany, I wouldn't be expecting a light show. In Spain, the same. And I'm not talking about the big clubs here, like the Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Them clubs are different. You'll get them, But if I went to, I don't know, a Hamburg or a Sao Pauli or a side like that in Germany, I probably wouldn't be expecting a light show. And I mean, in England, I've been to every single stadium in the top four divisions. I've been to Man City where they've had lasering Erling Haaland on the pitch and light shows and fireworks. But then I've now seen quite a lot of this at championship level as well. So it seems to be a thing that is slowly but surely coming into the game. And I just want to mention that I did really enjoy the performance last night. Despite it only being we live and die in these towns, I don't think we really expected too much more from the enemy, to be honest. I'm going to see them next week anyway. They've got 2 sold out gigs in Coventry. So, I mean, I think it was just a big kind of event before this, really. But even like going back to the away game at Wolves in the FA Cup a couple of years ago, I remember Flames that day. Hall always like a light show. Millwall have done it. Sunderland. So I've seen loads of light shows over the years. I think it is going to be something that fans are against, but they've just got to just accept it, really. And I think, some clubs have certain movements, especially around Europe, not so much in England, where they'll want to be in charge of the flags, the banners, the atmosphere. So it's a little bit different. And again, this is a championship show. We speak about the championship. So, there's clubs that will invest in things like the atmosphere and the match day experience. And the match day experience has improved so much this season than just what we had last season. So Coventry City, things are on the up. And I know people are going to agree with me when I say you shouldn't be doing a light show before every night game. If we do a light show which consists of just flashing lights and fireworks before Coventry City versus Charlton on a Tuesday night, it just seems a bit, I'm trying to think of the word here, but just forced, if you get what I mean. I think that's what everyone's biggest issue is. Last night was a one-off event. They were selling enemy merchandise and it was the enemy playing at the CBS. I think you made a point actually about them replaying it afterwards. I wasn't too sure why they did that, to be honest. They should have had the enemy play it then, but it doesn't matter. And I also want to just quickly make a point on the remembrance service as well. I thought that was really, really good. You could literally hear a pin drop in the CBS. And I got a few comments on my video on that as well, and I totally agree. Probably one of the best minute silences I've experienced at that ground. Especially since, as a kid, I'll never forget this. 2011, we had a minute silence against West Ham. And I always stand by the point that the people that will interrupt a minute silence are the ones that don't know that it's going on. But yeah, 2011, so I was, 8? And I've never forgot it the rest of my life. I just remember a shout during the minute of silence, everyone's shouting at each other, and I've never ever forgot that. It's just not a nice feeling. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point as well. That's not to do with the atmosphere, and I expect both teams, both very respectful clubs, Coventry and Sheffield United. But yeah, really happy, like I say, with the matchday experience, the atmosphere. But yeah, a lot of the light shows I think are quite forced. Let's just say. And I guess it is seen as Americanized. If I went over to watch an MLS game, Real Salt Lake versus, I don't know, Orlando City, if they're 2 mid-table teams, I'd expect fireworks and light shows, even though it could be seen as a nothing game. But I don't know. I guess it is just the way the game is going. And it's also a show as well. I mean, look, it's entertainment at the end of the day. Football's entertainment. And, there was a point in English football, Jonah, where they weren't all seater stadiums. It was literally just stands and all terracing around the pitch, and some grounds wouldn't even have roofs. So I mean, just from there to now, we've come a million miles. So yeah, we'll move on from the light show. I'm good to discuss it. I know you left something in your video, and it was really good to see the enemy. Should we move on to the Wednesday games? I think that's a good place to move on to. Have you got any more comments on light shows?
Nah, we'll revisit that at a later time. But I think if we look back in a couple of years, it'll become the standard. That's just my prediction. But let's look into today's results. The games had just finished off. Obviously, not gonna be able to go too deep into these, as obviously we were mid podcast. I had the QPR Southampton game on. That game really opened up in the second half. So QPR lose 1-2 against Southampton. Southampton get a win under their new interim manager. So statistically, they did not hold possession. I know we talked about XG, but Southampton, despite winning, create 0.68 XG. But based on what I saw in this game, it looked like they had a pretty good run, controlled. Obviously, end of the game, QPR is going to throw everything forward. Burrell got one back in the 73rd minute, and then they were not able to go on and win. So positive things for Southampton. QPR continued their, I guess you could say, descent from at one point being in the playoffs. Another result, don't think this one's too surprising. Preston North End 2-1 over Swansea City. Thierry Small gets the scoring going in the 8th minute. Then Oz Magic at the start of the second half. Swansea City held 67% possession, and they lost. So as we know, possession does not matter. What you do with it. Alex, take it over to you. Pretty tasty result here. A game that I definitely wish I was able to sit down and watch.
Well, I mean, the first thing I want to point out, just from QPR, what is going on there? Really, what is going on there? 4 losses out of 5 for Queen's Park Rangers, a side who, like you say, were in the playoffs not long ago, um, against a Southampton side who are in horrible, horrible form. But great for them. I mean, I think they expected to win a game eventually. Let's hope that they can pick up some sort of form now. But like you say, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a game. Personally, I'd have watched the relegation scrap, Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich. But a great 3 points for Preston North End, 2 goals. And then obviously, in the last quarter of an hour, Southampton, Swansea getting a goal back, and dominating that possession, dominating the chances. Preston have 4 chances in the game and to score 2 goals. If you're a Swansea fan, you're absolutely fuming on your way back down to South Wales. But it's just the Championship, eh? It is literally the Championship. And Swansea, again, another side who a couple of games ago, you could have made an argument saying they're doing really, really well. They'd beat Norwich. They'd come off a loss against QPR in that Man City game in the Cup. I mean, to get that far in the Cup as a Championship side, I feel like could be a little bit of a red herring, really. But Swansea are probably the only team in the league that have not been on any consistent form. Would you kind of agree with that? They'll win, maybe draw, but they haven't really had a good run of 2-3 wins or a run of 2-3 losses. So you don't really know what you're going to get from Swansea.
Yeah, I've been saying that, this entire season.
Yeah.
They have just been dropping and dropping and dropping. I think they were up to maybe 11th or 12th at one point. They're now sitting down 17th. 1 win in their last 5. Really do not know what to make of them. Gotta be fuming, midweek result. Preston taking advantage of their opportunities. But, there's a reason that Preston are sitting in 4th place. They've been very clinical. They took their chances in that crazy game against Sheffield United a couple Fridays back. So good on them. Relegation scrap wise, we saw 1-1 Sheffield Wednesday
Yeah.
versus Norwich. Sheffield Wednesday opened the scoring. In the 4th minute, no one else other than Barry Bannon, Norwich City get one back with Matthias Kvistgarten, the premier signing of the summer for them in the 61st. And looks like a pretty even-ish game, possessions just about even. 2 XG on Sheffield Wednesday's side, 1.68 on Norwich City's side. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday will be okay with the result. I think they know they need wins. Norwich City fans, Liam Manning, everyone on the pitch has to be fuming with this.
Yeah, I think if I'm a Wednesday fan, firstly, yeah, you're okay with a draw, but this is a game you've got to be clinching 3 points. And by the way, congratulations, Jonah, another correct score prediction from you. I think you win this week. I only got 1 right. You've had at least 3. But yeah, this is a game Sheffield Wednesday really should be winning. First midweek game under the lights. And just to give you context, Jonah, I guarantee you Sheffield Wednesday they don't have the light possibilities of doing a light show. If you go to Hillsborough, yeah, it's not, well, it's proper old school football ground, let's just say. And they're the grounds I love more than anything. Like, you can just feel the history of Hillsborough, and it is a football ground. And Carrow Road's a little bit similar at Norwich, but they've got a moving screen, Jonah. They've got like a scoreboard, but the away end is behind the scoreboard, so it just kind of moves to show you I'll have to find you a video of Norwich's moving scoreboard, the only one in English football. Anyway, I've gone off topic here, but a good point for, I feel, both sides who are down in the relegation zone will need a little bit of confidence, but both sides at this stage of the season will see it as a 6-pointer. And I mean, for Norwich, it was a great opportunity to get back to winning ways. Sheffield Wednesday, 14 games in, -4 points now, and that's 2 draws in 2. So if they continue drawing games, I mean, I think they've kind of realised their fate the second the season started. But they can still cause trouble to other sides. Sheffield Wednesday, I mean, just looking at their fixtures and when they've got that game against Sheffield United, November 21st. So their next home game is the Steel City Derby, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United. That is a massive game, a huge game, not just because it's a derby, but Sheffield Wednesday in 24th, Sheffield United in 23rd. Two sides that have really, really struggled this season. So I can't wait to preview that in a couple of weeks' time. One more game to go over. I don't want to speak about it too much. I mean, I hate 0-0 draws. They are the vein of my life, especially when going to football games, watching football games. And then speaking about football games, I mean, 0-0 draws. Have you ever watched a 0-0 draw, Jonah, and went, yeah, that was a really good game?
Let me think. No, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
See, I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head where I mean, there might be games in League One, League Two where, we've got a 0-0 draw against a team that are doing well when we're not doing so well. But I've never left and gone, that was a great game. So
No.
Portsmouth 0, Wrexham 0, a good point for both sides. Regardless, Portsmouth needed something at home, Fratton Park against Wrexham. I couldn't say the last time them two played. And also, Bobby Madley was the referee as well, the worst referee in the Championship. So there was probably loads of decisions that were wrong throughout that game because he handed Ben Sheaf a card, Dan Scar, Colby Bishop, Josh Murphy. Yeah, just loves handing cards out. Reminds me of them people you see at the casino. Anyway, Wrexham 0, Portsmouth 0. Any thoughts on this before we move on to our predictions, Jonah?
Not really. I mean, Portsmouth have Hull this weekend that they'll be looking to get something out of that. It's going to be difficult. Wrexham would like to see how they, I guess, rebounded after the win against Coventry, see if they could parlay that into something more. They're probably a little bit frustrated with this result. We shall see. I think still positive overall for Wrexham, considering it's going on 10 games with one loss. So good on them. They're sitting in 14th. I mean, they are, a good week or two away from putting themselves as fringe playoff contenders, which I think a couple weeks ago would have been a pretty shocking thing, as we could probably say for a few teams. But yeah,
Well, then, game week 15 is here. Watford versus Bristol City on Friday night. Sky Sports kickoff. And then a couple more games, 12:30 on the Saturday. No Sunday game, but we are going to have a Sunday game next game week, like I just spoke about, the Steel City Derby. We'll start off Watford at home to Bristol City, who have lost 2 on the bounce. Watford still yet to win on the road. A fact I didn't know until you mentioned it, and I was actually really shocked. I pulled a really shocked face when you said it because I genuinely couldn't believe it. I think this is going to be a win for the Hornets, a side that have, I say, been in good form, good on the eye. They've won 1 in 3. My prediction for this one is Watford 2, Bristol City 1. I do see Bristol City getting on the score sheet. I think it's going to be a little bit of a tighter game, but I do see Bristol City being the losing team in this one. What's your thoughts on this game?
I think the slide for Bristol City will continue, and I think Watford, kind of emerging and embracing the fact that they can push for playoffs is going to show here. I'm going to go 3-1. I think they'll grab one to extend that lead late in the game.
I'm sorry that this is totally irrelevant, but the one prediction I got right was the Coventry prediction. But listen to this, Jonah. Yesterday, when people were coming up to me, like my mates, saying, "Oh, what do you reckon?" I was saying 3-0, which was your prediction. So I got
I
my
did the same
prediction.
thing all week. I was saying that I said 3-1. I said it on my channel yesterday. We flip-flopped.
So yeah, so I'm telling you now. Last night, um, when they scored, I turned around to my mate Dylan and went, "Oh, my prediction's wrong." And he said, "Oh, well, one of his mates on the bus said it would be 3-1."
Mm.
So now, and I was like, "No, I've said 3-0. I think Rushworth clean sheet. He hasn't had one for a couple of games." So we flip flopped completely. I was right even though I was wrong, and you were wrong even though you were right at some point.
Do you
But
remember
anyway,
saying it? Because I almost wonder if I flip-flopped them when I wrote them down.
I wrote them down as well.
Okay, so you have the
So
you said 3-1.
yeah,
For
and
some,
do you know
okay.
what? Do you know what? I think it's more the fact that maybe after a couple of days, I lost a bit of faith in Rushworth, and you gained it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll move on to Saturday. Blackburn at home to Derby. We've spoke about both teams. I mean, Blackburn with a good win at Ashton Gate. And have you ever watched the highlights of games at Bristol City? I'm sure you have. And I just want to point this out. The camera angle is so annoying.
Oh,
If you haven't,
yes, I
yeah,
did. It's so high up, right?
it's so weird. Anyway, we've already spoken about Bristol City. Gladly, they're away from home. Blackburn versus Derby, the John Eustace Derby. Derby are in fantastic form. By John Eustace Derby, I mean Blackburn versus Derby, not John Eustace Derby County side. Anyway, I'm waffling on too much. I think this is a game where you could call either side to win it. Blackburn were pretty good in the games I've seen them play this season. Derby County are in a great run of form. Colton Morris scoring goals. I think he's going to score one in this game. I'm going to go for another 2-1 here. Blackburn probably even scoring the first, but I think Derby will come away with 3 points.
7 wins in a row by these two teams. So this is definitely a big fixture, wanting to build that positive momentum going into the international break. I think it's going to be a scrap. I could see Carlton Morris grab another one. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. Blackburn at home will grab that point.
Yeah, and another team that were in great form until this week, Hull City back at home against Portsmouth, who, again, another team that on the eye have been good from when I've watched them, but are probably in desperate need of some points. I think Hull will go back to winning ways here, though. I'm going to go for Hull 2, Portsmouth 0.
I've actually got 2-0 for this game as well. I wanted to give Pompey a goal, but I think it's going to be difficult for them despite, Hulks being a team known for conceding a lot. Hull are going to bounce back in a positive way and grab 3 before the break.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we speak about Hull City and they were in great form up until their defeat midweek. Another team that were in very similar standard was Millwall. Now, I don't know what to predict with Millwall because they go from being just a couple of points off them automatic spots. You've got Millwall fans saying, "Oh, imagine if we go up this season to getting absolutely smashed 4-0 away from home." They're back at the Den, but is the Den really a fortress like people make out? Because I mean, there's been a lot of teams that turn up there and do roll them over. And speaking of that, Preston could be one of them. Preston obviously coming away with a 2-1 win at home. And I think Preston are probably one of the most underrated sides in the league. Sat in fourth, it's fourth versus fifth as well, so a big game. It's a tough one to predict, a very tough one. I am going to edge it to Millwall because there seems to be a really good team when it comes to bouncing back. Preston, despite only having lost 3 games this season, I think this will be their 4th loss. I'm going for Millwall 3, Preston North End 2. So I don't think it's going to be, a landslide. I think it'll be an interesting game, but I think Millwall will see a response.
I like that. Okay, so you're going for a 5-goal thriller, Millwall to edge it. Yeah, we know the Den has been interesting. They've been thrashed 8-0 combined by 2 teams this season there. I don't see it going like that, but I do see a high-scoring affair. I think end-to-end football, we'll see it open up a lot at the end. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, well, I like that. I mean, it's similar to my prediction. A tough one to predict, and another tough one to predict following that one. Obviously, you've gone for a 2-2 draw. I'm going for a 2-2 here as well. Middlesbrough versus Birmingham City. Birmingham are in great form. I mean, back-to-back 4-0 wins. Part of me would actually quite like them to win this next one as well. I mean, Middlesbrough away, not an easy game. Middlesbrough are going to be scrambling around for some points. I don't think they're going to win this one. I'm going to go with Middlesbrough 2, Birmingham City 2.
I like it. I think that the Birmingham City run is going to continue. I think if you had to handpick a time to play Middlesbrough, now would be, one of your best times to do it. I think they're going to keep that clean sheet record going, make it 3 games in a row. I think it'll be 2-0 to Birmingham City.
Yeah, and I mean, that wouldn't surprise me either, but you just don't know what you're going to expect from a side like Middlesbrough, who started the season off really, really well. Next, then, well, we're still on to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. We've got Norwich City versus Leicester at Carrow Road, the home of the moving screen. Norwich picking up a point on the road tonight. I think they're going to pick up another point here. They have really struggled this season, but I don't see Leicester winning this. I'm going to predict a 0-0 draw here. not going to be a great game. That's my prediction.
You know what? I want to see some chaos. I want to see fans going crazy. I want to see just some stuff pop off without any serious harm happening. Let's go Leicester City 3, Norwich City 0. The end of the Liam Manning era, if he even manages to survive, because last time we know this episode went out about 90 minutes before Southampton sacked Will Still.
Yeah, and as well, there's been a lot of boos towards the manager, tennis balls on the pitch. Fans just not happy with the overall ownership of Norwich City Football Club at the moment. And you know what? It is a real shame. They're a side that were in the Premier League not too long ago, playing another side that were in the Premier League not too long ago. In fact, just last season in Leicester City. 3-0 to Leicester's your prediction. And do you know what? At some point, they've got to start scoring goals, especially with their quality in that final third that they do have. I don't know whether this will be the game or after the international break. And I mean, Norwich are going to, we've seen Norwich. I mean, they're going to do the dark arts. They're going to do anything they can to try and scramble out of that relegation zone. And speaking of the relegation zone, another relegation zone team in Sheffield United at home this weekend, following a 3-1 loss to the Sky Blues against QPR. I mean, surely Sheffield United win this. QPR not in great form. Sheffield United need a win. They do have quality. I thought at times against Coventry they were decent. But yeah, it's just QPR. I mean, they're such an unpredictable team. I'm going to go for Sheffield United 2, QPR 1 here.
I think Sheffield United, despite the loss against Coventry, have some positives to take out of it. I mean, anytime a team near the bottom of the table, whether they're supposed to be there or not, can go and for, maybe about 45 minutes hold down the team at the top of the league, they'll take some positives, but it's tough to see them really getting a win here. I just think it might just be broken right now, and they may just need that time off. I'm not going to give QPR the win because they're also streaking, but I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fair result and a great point as well for Sheffield United, who need to climb out of that relegation zone. 2 more teams now who really need 3 points. I know Southampton found a win this game week, but I mean, is that really enough? Will Still now sacked. This could be the real turnaround that they need. Coming up against Sheffield Wednesday, sat bottom of the table, despite being on -4 points, despite me sitting here saying their season is over. They've got to back themselves. They've got to go into training every single day with the belief that they are good enough. However, I think this will be the home game the Southampton fans have been wanting all season. The atmosphere is going to be at least a little bit better that they haven't got a football manager expert managing their team. I think it's going to be Southampton 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0.
We got another one where we both have the same. So I'm also going 3-0. I think this is going to be the time. They got the pressure off their shoulders with the win today. Switched a couple things up. Tom Fellows playing as a right wing back seemed to have worked pretty well. Let's give him that 3-0 victory.
Well then, Jonah, the big one this weekend, the 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, firstly. Oh my word, Coventry City, what is going on? Even better, Stoke is only about an hour on the train, so a train away day. Really looking forward to it. Stoke away, a ground I've been to maybe 20 odd times. I've sat in every single stand. I've even filmed a game pitch side for a uni coursework. I never thought I'd want to go there again because it's statistically, or it's known, Jonah, as the coldest ground in the country. I'm sure you've heard the saying, can you do it on a cold Tuesday night in Stoke? Well, can we do it on a cold Saturday afternoon in Stoke? Last time we went there was a dull 1-0 loss. Mark Robbins was still our manager. Wasn't great, but the last time these two sides played was that 3-2 win in, what was it, the 96th minute winner. Absolute scenes. I had a broken foot at the time. It was absolute chaos. I don't think it's going to be that this time. I think it's going to be a lot tighter of a game. I don't think either side are really going to want to take too many risks, and I think that could be the detriment, really, especially for us. I don't want to predict either team to win this one, though. I really want to play it safe. The best attack in the league versus the best defence in the league is going to be really interesting. I'm playing it safe. I'm going for a 1-1 draw here.
I feel like I knew you were going to say that. I could definitely see a 1-1 draw. It seems like probably the most likely outcome, that or a 0-0. I really liked what I saw in the second half of the Coventry City game. I am concerned about the squad being able to recover in time because, yes, at the end of the day, both teams have the same amount of time to recover, but the amount of energy that Coventry had to expend in this game compared to Stoke in a 3-0 victory over Oxford, I think that could be the difference. I would like to see Coventry, kind of set up defensively and go in and just try and grab a point out. I'm going to go with a boring 0-0 draw, similar to Leicester versus Coventry at King Power earlier this season.
Well, I'm just going to say it. I will take 0-0 now. In fact, I even said it to a friend of mine who's a Stoke fan. I will take 0-0 now. A point is a point. And I mean, Stoke are in fantastic form. And it's crazy because a couple of weeks ago, this would have been a game I'd have expected us to win. Usually, I mean, I always had the joke at uni, Coventry were always considerably better than Stoke. There was a couple of times they beat us, especially that 4-0 smashing at home, which wasn't great. But we're really rolling back the years now. 3 more games to go. We go to South Wales for this one. Swansea versus Ipswich. I think Ipswich are going to win this game. Swansea, like I've mentioned on this video, it's one of them teams that are just really hard to predict. They're either going to win or lose or draw, which is common sense. But you just do not know what you're going to get. Ipswich, like I've said, they're going far this season. And I think Ipswich are definitely going to win this game. They've got the quality in their team, the likes of Philogene, the likes of Jack Clark. And for me, that is going to be all the difference in Ipswich being in that top 6, if not the top 2. I'm going for Swansea 0, Ipswich 2 in this game.
Another stalwart for us. I also have 0-2 in this game. I think it just makes the most sense. Ipswich are, going to finish strong and they will overpower Swansea at least 2 times. Like to see Marcelino Nunez start at the 10. He was dropped for Chuba Akpom this past game and they didn't get 3 points. Hopefully, Kieran McKenna picks that up and we'll revert back to that. I think that may have been one of the reasons that they were able to win 2 of 2.
Well, then, 2 more games to go. We're now in the Black Country for West Bromwich Albion versus Oxford United. Now, another tough one to predict. I feel like I say that before every single game, but I think this is quite a tough one to predict. It can go either way. West Brom are not in the best of form, not scoring many goals at the moment. Oxford, as bad as they've been in certain games, they got smashed 3-0 by Stoke. They can find the back of the net. 2-2 draw against the Sky Blues, a 2-2 draw against Millwall. So I feel like Oxford can come away with 3 points here. I'm going for West Brom 0, Oxford 1. It's not going to be the most entertaining of games at the Hawthorns, but I think Oxford will come away with 3 points.
I like that. I really do like that. I could totally see that happening. Oxford, when they play with confidence, if they can get a goal, they will probably be able to lock up shop. We also saw them come from behind against Coventry. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. West Brom haven't scored in a little bit. I think they'll get one, but I think Oxford will get one as well. Yeah, give me that draw.
Well then, 1 game to go. The racecourse ground seems to be a bit of a fortress. Wrexham last time out at home beating Sky Blues 3-2. Don't really want to mention it too much, but I thought they were the better team on the day, and I think they're going to win again in a game where you could easily predict them to not win against a quite informed Charlton side, Nathan Jones' side. I mean, the theatrics that you predicted happened. So I'm going to predict that Charlton will take the lead in this game and Nathan Jones will celebrate like he, might do quite a lot. But Wrexham will turn it round in the second half, similar to what they did against Coventry, and they'll win this one 2-1. Not a bad result, I don't think, for either team. I mean, not saying that Charlton can afford to lose a game, but they are sat in and around the playoffs, massive overachievers. I'd make the argument they're the biggest overachievers in the league. And the last time these two sides met, unlike a lot of the teams in the Championship, because, you look at Wrexham and they haven't played at this level for a very long time. A lot of the sides haven't played against them for even longer. I think when I made my Wrexham video, it was 1964 the last time Coventry played Wrexham in a league game. The last time Wrexham played Charlton in a league game was April 26th of this year. Wrexham won 3-0. And the last time they played at the Valley was a 2-2 draw. So, I mean, foes of quite more recent time than what we've seen with a lot of the teams that Wrexham are playing this season. But yeah, like I've predicted, Wrexham 2, Charlton 1. They beat them last time back in April, and I'm predicting a Wrexham win again. What's your prediction?
So I think Wrexham are a team that obviously we know they've got the documentary rolling all the time. They're Team Hollywood. I think that they have grown into a role where they get up for these, quote unquote narrative games. So against the league leaders in Coventry. Now, this one will be, a mini rivalry. It's not as big as, Wrexham versus Birmingham City, just on the terms of, TV and Americanization and whatnot. But these are two teams that both came up. So I think Wrexham will want to, especially at home, show them up and, put their best foot forward. I think I'm going to go with a 3-1 win here. I think I'm a little bit scarred by the attacking play of Keeper Moore and Josh Windass. They really, really put their best foot forward against Coventry. I think they'll do the same, even though, I did spend a few minutes praising the Charlton back line this season. It happens. Teams wax and wane. I think Wrexham are going to actually take this one, despite not scoring today. 3-1.
Anyway, there are our predictions locked in. Watch it be 2-0 to Charlton now, and West Brom pick up their first win in quite a while. Isaac Price, who I've said has been a little out of form, gets back into form. Hopefully, we're both wrong on Coventry versus Stoke as well. The Sky Blues can go back to winning ways, at least away from home. And yeah, that is it for our predictions. Game week 15 coming up, then an international break. So I'm sure we'll be able to get some content out and another podcast out. But yeah, how are you feeling going into this game week, Jonah?
Well, I'm hoping I get more predictions right so I can make TikToks claiming that I know ball. We'll see. Coventry versus Stoke wise, I'm a bit nervous. I think this is the first game this year where I've truly been okay with a point. People like to say that a lot. I'm not okay with points. I want wins most of the time, but this game I truly am okay with a point. Probably one of the worst times to play Stoke, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's the magic of the championship. A lot of other games I'm looking forward to as well. We will be recapping again this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. Probably should have said this at the beginning of the episode. We were going to debate this with you guys, but we're just going to do it. So if you make it to the end and you feel super strongly about this, you feel free to DM us, drop a comment. We are going to be separating the predictions and the recaps going forward, probably staggering the uploads by a day or two, just because some people don't like the 90-minute episodes. Also, a lot of people may not even know that we do these, considering, it's hard to get through a 90-minute podcast. So going forward, when the championship returns, we will be putting out a recap video and a predictions video. On top of that, we'll be looking to get some content out over the international break.
Yeah. And again, I mean, just to say as well, quickly on that, I think, we're going into the international break. We'll probably be putting our next game week predictions out a lot closer to the time as well, because a lot can change over the international break, manager sackings, little injuries, things like that. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. It's been a fantastic reception from this first kind of block of episodes that we've done of this podcast. I'm really happy with how it's going. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.